teeny tiny town in Tennessee. I'm from McMinnville, Tennessee originally, but grew up in Nashville. And I grew up in just a very blue-collar, working-class home. Both of my parents did not attend college, but they are hard workers. And what they instilled in me is that belief that hard work and passion and faith and joy can really give you any and everything you can ever want in life. So my mom, who at the age of 7 became a single mother, any single mothers in the house? And she went to the ground doing her thing, selling. She sold everything from makeup. I had family members selling Mary Kay. She sold cable. She sold pharmaceuticals. It was really just kind of embedded in my DNA that sales is the way in which you connect and you build relationships. And so as I grew up and just had that great encouragement around me, I went to the University of Tennessee. I majored in marketing and communications, and I hit the ground running. I went to New York City to get a job, and I'd never been there before. I didn't know anyone, had no idea what I was doing, but I just figured it out. And I got in there and I started learning about PR, marketing, communications. That then led to working at a publishing house called HarperCollins, where I did book publicity for many years. And around this time, this was probably about 2010, 2011, I started to really notice that the landscape was changing. I started to look around and there were these people that were calling themselves bloggers. And I was like, well, that's interesting. You know, what's this blog and what's a blogger? And as I started to get into that, I started to realize, oh my gosh, these women predominantly are starting blogs and they're monetizing it and they're making money off of it. This is really interesting. So how could I take what my zone of genius is and kind of infuse it into this industry? And at the time, it wasn't really called influencer marketing yet. We didn't really have a name for it. But I started diving in. I created a blog myself. I was doing that. But what I quickly kind of started to realize is that the bloggers around me, and really the community around me, they didn't really need my blog tips. What they needed were my marketing skill sets and my marketing strategies. So from that, I started creating online programs to teach online entrepreneurs how to brand themselves, how to market themselves, and then I created the Influencer Podcast. And then from the podcast, we teach an array of strategies from that. And then it's really kind of taken off and grown from there. But the passion really just came from wanting to be able to create and perform and share in the most connected way possible. And I feel like one of the most beautiful ways that you can do that in life is through marketing.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. So when we had a chance to speak on the phone, you know, I was expecting this to be all about social media, but then I quickly realized this is beyond that. It's just marketing in general, but obviously marketing includes social media these days. So before we jump into anything about that, I wanted you to actually, you know, I know that when I first thought about starting It Works, what held me back was this thought of, I've never sold anything before. And to me, sales people are pushy, and I don't want to be one of those people, you know, thinking of maybe that traditional door-to-door salesman. So you talk a lot about limiting beliefs when it comes to selling, and can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I mean, limiting beliefs I think is the biggest thing that can hold someone back from really showing up and serving. For me, the way that I look at sales is at the end of the day, I feel like we're always selling something, right? Even when we're just meeting someone, we're selling them on who we are and what we do and, you know, how we position ourselves in the world. So it's really about just realizing at the end of the day, there's two types of sales, as you mentioned. You can have the sleazy, slimy, you know, used carsman, you know, trying to sell you a lemon, or you can have service-based sales that comes from integrity and comes from passion and comes from really wanting to enact change in the world and make a bigger impact on the world. And so what I've really noticed with a lot of those limiting beliefs is really getting to the mindset of remembering that you're not really selling something, you're more selling a feeling and emotion that somebody's wanting. And it was so interesting because I was just talking to my son, I have a 5-year-old in Camden, and the other day he was wanting to buy this Spider-Man thing, and I said, well, you know, it's $20, so if you want to save your money, you know, you can go to Target and get it. And so he was kind of perplexed because he was like, well, I don't have any more money from my Santa stocking, so like, how do I make money? And so I said, well, there's an array of ways that you can do it, and we started kind of walking through that, and one of the ways was a lemonade stand. And he was like, well, what if someone doesn't want lemonade? And I said, well, honey, you have to remember at the end of the day, you're not selling them lemonade, you're selling them the feeling that the lemonade gives them. You know, the joy and the thirst and quenching and just the feel-goodness of a lemonade. And so to me, it's kind of going back to that of no matter what you're selling, It's really getting to the root of you at the end of the day have to believe in your heart and hearts that what you're selling is something that you are truly passionate about and that you truly believe in. And that you know that there is someone out there who needs exactly what it is that you are servicing them. Because I believe at the end of the day that it's a service, not a sale. And if you don't do everything in your power to get that in front of those who need you the most, you are actually stealing from those who need you the most. It is your divine right purpose on this planet to show up and to be the creative visionary that each and every one of you are and share that gift that you have to the world.
And isn't that the truth, right?
Yeah.
I knew this was going to be so much more than social the minute you started talking about that because, listen, for many of you that don't know, my parents own the company, and I was actually
Yeah, we don't know that.
well, I was actually around when they started it and yet wasn't interested in it. I was excited for them. I was so proud of them for doing this, but it was because I didn't have that excitement. I didn't, in that moment, know why in my own heart it works was so needed and so necessary out there from my own personal perspective. And it was once I had Landon and I realized, oh my gosh, there are other moms out there that feel like me, that want to be home with their kid, but they don't have a means to do so. I instantly, the passion and the feeling I wanted to get out there and convey, and I knew It Works could be the solution, was this ability to be able to bring income into the home and then be the mom that they needed to be and not sacrifice the kind of living and life that they wanted to provide for their family. And so, you know, it might be a product that you're just like elated about. It might be the way that this business can create, you know, time freedom or financial freedom. We're all sharing a different excitement, but I'm telling you guys, that passion is what's going to move people to want to learn more about what you're doing, and I just could not agree more with that.
Yeah, and it's that idea too of remembering that you're not powerless to stepping into whatever you want in life. And I think that for a lot of times, especially for women, one of the beliefs that we have, whether it's society norms or what have you, that the smaller and quieter that we are, the more accepted that we're going to be. And so a lot of women tend to quiet their dreams and keep them small and really just kind of stay in that safe place because they've been told that that's what you're supposed to do. When really it's about actually stepping into the space that was made for you. You've got to step into that space that's already there, that was created for you. And I think that online marketing and a company like It Works is so amazing in that because it gives you the opportunity to create, not only step into that space, but create it in a way that works for you and works for your family. And so you can step into that and remember that you are a big freaking deal and that you are awesome and that you can create anything that you want as long as you remember that those beliefs are just beliefs, right? And we can change beliefs. And some limiting beliefs are great. When you're little, your parents tell you, don't touch the stove, it's gonna burn you. So that limits you from touching the stove. But then there's also limiting beliefs that don't serve us as much. And so it's being mindful of that and knowing that you do have the power and the freedom to change those beliefs for yourself.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And so often we say 80% of what, you know, our success comes from what we're believing and, you know, where our mind is at. And so that just proves it over and over. If we don't get that right, you know, no matter what skills you're learning or something you learn later today from Julie or on this stage throughout the day, it's not going to matter if you don't have it right here.
Yeah, you can't buy your way through clarity or buy, you know, you can learn the skills and the strategies and the tactics all day long, but if you don't believe in your heart of hearts, and it kind of goes back to that idea, I always love to ask people to ask themselves this question of, do I want to be the flippin' best at this? Like, do I really want to be the absolute best at this? And if the answer is yes, then the next question is, well then, am I ready to be the absolute best version of myself so I can be the absolute best at this?
I think their their lights aren't working because they're all struggling to get those out there, but there we go, I agree. And if we're being honest with ourselves, that's the area we're probably needing to spend the most time on. But that's why I love a weekend like this.
Exactly.
Time and time again, you're gonna see people that walk through on this stage that are no different from you. And that's what I loved about your story, Julie, being from a small town and now having just this massive marketing influencer business. And she's living in California, and so mom of a young boy, I mean, we can relate to that in a number of ways. All right, well, let's talk about business for a minute, because in a business like this, It is so important that we continue to build our network, that our list is growing. And I was asked last night, someone said, if you could just tell me one thing I should be doing for my business every day, what would it be? And I was like, every single day you should be putting a new person on your list, somebody new that you can develop a relationship with, and then continue to nurture the relationships that you already have. And so tell us what, how do you continue to build followers, new followers?
Yeah, and I love that you use the word nurture and the word relationship, because I think that is the biggest part to it, but also the biggest piece that a lot of people tend to forget, because a lot of times we just hear, grow your following, and it's just about how many followers can I get in my pool, right? How many more people can I get in here? But if those people are not invested in you, if those people don't know who you are, why it's important to them, and how you serve them, it doesn't matter how many followers you have, because they're not going to convert and they're not going to listen to you. So it's really about getting clear. It's a little bit of what I call repelling and attracting. As much as you want to attract followers, it's about, and so what I like to do, I call it your IAA, so it's your ideal audience avatar. You actually want to create an avatar, a person that you are trying to get into your community. You want to know who this person is, where do they live, their demographics, what kind of coffee they drink in the mornings, what's the last YouTube video they listen to. You want to get so super specific about this person that it feels like it's your best friend. You want to know him or her so intimately inside out. You're going to know her challenges, her fears, her frustrations, all of that good stuff. Actually, I have a free worksheet, if I can share, on how you can fill this out. If you go to juliesolomon.net/growth, you can download a free worksheet that lets you fill out your avatar, and this allows you to get super crystal clear on exactly who it is that you're talking to, and so you know what you need to say, you know where to find her because you know where she is, and then by doing that, you're actually going to start repelling the people who should not be there anyways, because again, if you're talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody. So you've got to get really, really clear on who you're talking to and how you can best serve them, and that's how you start to attract those people in. So the first piece is getting really clear on that.
I love that. Do you guys feel like you could use that worksheet she's talking about so you know exactly?
It's a game changer.
For sure.
Such a game changer.
And that's what our weekend's all about, is having game-changing moments. Okay, what else do you do?
So through following, so once you know exactly who you're talking to, then it's a twofold of about how do you serve the platform that you already have, because that's another time that I think people feel like, okay, I got her in, now I'm on to the next. And you kind of forget to nurture that relationship. And I kind of think of it as like a first date. If someone called you up and you were super excited about going on a first date, and you have like the best first date ever, and then you never hear from them again. And you're just like, what just happened? You're like, where did this person go? And so it's about, in order to get the marriage going and to have that lifelong partnership and that lifelong relationship, you have to nurture the relationship. And so it's about remembering that just as important as it is to try to seek out more of your ideal audience, it's just as, if it's not important, to nurture the audience that you already have, because that's the audience that is warm. That is how you get those repeat customers. That is how you build the know, like, and trust. And that is a big piece that I think, as social media keeps growing, that piece keeps getting missed and missed and missed.
Well, yeah, because it becomes more about numbers,
yes,
than it does about the faces. And so that's one of the things I love about our company is our number one product has been the It Works wrap, our flagship product, but we have always believed our people. And so you'll hear leaders say often, it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality, and I believe that's what I'm hearing you say too.
Exactly.
And it'll increase your engagement, and that's what we're looking for. So what are some really basic ways through social media that we can nurture that relationship?
Yes, so I think right now, and I'm going to talk about Instagram specifically, and then I'll talk Facebook. So for Instagram, the biggest thing that I have seen a great return on is Instagram stories. It is such a way to build that intimacy. It is such a way to kind of bring your audience in and let them see more of a 360 view of your life. Because again, it's about building the know, like, and trust. And that they may know one thing about you, but in order for them to really invest, and again, we're selling that feeling, not just the product, in order for them to feel invested in who you are and want to be your supporters and cheerleaders and want to buy every flipping thing that you sell because you're so amazing at what you do, they've got to have that investment piece. And so Instagram stories, I think, is a great way to do that. Now, I know that a lot of people are like, well, Julie, I'm not comfortable on camera, I don't want to do that. You also probably weren't comfortable with riding a bike before you knew how to ride a bike either. So it's about just kind of, again, that's the limiting belief. So it's allowing that to kind of shed itself and just to know that, look, We're all uncomfortable on there. No one really knows what they're doing at the end of the day. It's just about getting on there, testing, feeling out what's working, what's not working, what do I think my audience kind of engaged with, what were they curious about, and curious is a big, big piece. And I think that that kind of also goes back to that limiting belief of, well, I don't know social media, so I can't do it, or I can't grow no matter what I do, so I guess I'm just not good at this and I should stop. But what if you change that limiting belief around to, how can I make this work for me? What else could I learn? How could I do this differently or in a different way to learn something new? And really being resourceful and curious about that. And you're not going to do that just by thinking it, because engagement comes from action, not thought. So the more that you keep it in here, the more that it's just going to stay looped in here. You got to act, ACT. You got to make it happen. You got to go get it. And I know that you guys are go-getters, because you would not be in this room if you weren't. That same exact mentality. You're just doing it on a social media platform instead.
What I love about Story
We were
is
just talking about that.
so interesting. What repels me is the perfection profile.
Yes.
Because I'm like, if you only knew what a hot mess express it is behind, you know, the front doors of mine. As a matter of fact, even my own family says, like, being around me sometimes is exhausting because of how busy and how nutty it is, you know? But I believe people are attracted to that because then they feel normal. And so I want to remind you, you might think, well, gosh, I don't take those great pictures and my hair isn't always done, but that's what people want to see there is real. They want to see the real you, and that's what I believe they're drawn into. And I think that's where the relationship feels so much more real in that moment too. It's not just this post with a perfectly, you know, vetted.
Yes, or even what I like to call the curated imperfection. You know, the ones that are like, oh yeah, I have a messy bun and sweatpants that cost $900, but I'm just like you. And it's
Right.
like, you know, my messy bun and my no makeup look. And it's like,
No makeup
let's scratch
look.
that too, because the curated imperfection is not helping anyone either. Like, show up and be real and be honest
Yeah, I
with
love
yourself.
that. Woo!
And then that is what's going to build that know, like, and trust. That is what's going to build that curiosity of someone saying, you know what, she's interesting. She reminds me of me, or she reminds me of my sister or my cousin. I want to know more about her. I'm going to follow her.
Well, and that's what I fell in love with you about when we first met. Like, we met on the Zoom for the first time, and she had no makeup on, and I was like, yes, she's one of my kind of girls.
Yeah.
She's a speaker we're hiring for our conference, and she showed up as herself, and I love that, because I knew we were really getting to know
You get this, like, you know, a few times a year, but mostly I work at home, I've got a kid, we got all the things, right? The kid, the husband, the life, the church, the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So just owning that, I think, and with confidence and really claiming that as a brilliant part of you is key.
All right, so what can we start implementing right now that sets us apart from other multi-level marketing companies out there, other direct selling companies? Because what concerns me is the rap that maybe the industry gets because of how people act on social media, perhaps.
Yes, okay, I'm so glad that you brought this up. Because a lot of times, and as we now know, I mean, I own a business, I have online programs, I have a podcast, I've got things, right, that I'm doing. And a lot of times on a DM, and I won't name names, but I'll get a DM from someone who follows me and they say, oh, I work for so-and-so company. You have great skin. Have you ever tried to work with so-and-so? And I'm sitting there thinking, like, does this script really work? Because let's say if you send it out to 1,000 people, what, the conversion rate on that is like maybe 5 to 10 people get back to you, maybe, I don't know. If that person would have done just 5 minutes of research, just on who I am and what I do, and started the conversation from a more authentic, intentional place, she would have gotten a response. But because she talked to me like she was a walking billboard and not a human being, I didn't respond to her. And so it's about remembering that, you know, you wouldn't go on an airplane and be like, hello, my name is Stephanie. Have you ever heard of my company? Do you want my products? Like, no, nobody talks like that. You know, talk to people like they're actually a human being, and the best way to do that is to get curious. And I know I bring up that word, but hi, what do you do? Oh my gosh, that sounds so interesting. Tell me more. So what I would do if I was in your boat and I was selling It Works products and I was trying to get more people into my pool, I would take about 5 minutes to learn a little bit about the person. I would scroll through their Instagram, I would maybe click on a website or a blog if they had it, learn a little bit about who they are, make sure that they align with my avatar, because again, if they don't align with my avatar, then I'm not going to waste my time reaching out to them because they're not my ideal customer. So I'm going to make sure that they are my ideal customer. It takes about 2.5 seconds, not that long. And then I'm going to do a little bit of research. Where are you? I'm going to see if I can find a commonality. You know, maybe they live in Chicago and it's my favorite place to go in the summer. Maybe, you know, they went to college with me. Maybe there's some 6 degrees to separation. It's so easy to find that on Facebook and Instagram nowadays, right? We always know Kevin Bacon somewhere in the mix of that, right? 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon. So find a little bit about that, take 5 minutes, and then send them a DM and just say, hey, I read this on your website and I thought that it was so interesting. Can you tell me where that came about? Or hey, I just wanted to let you know that I absolutely loved this product that you were talking about the other day. What made you curious to want to try that and talk about it? Ask them questions and open-ended questions so it kind of puts the ball back in their court to respond to you. And then see where the conversation goes. Your first connection to that person should not be a sell. It should be, how can I learn more about this person? How can I learn more about their challenges, their frustrations? How can I do less of the talking and more of the listening to see where I can meet them in the middle to be a service to them?
It's interesting because very early on in my business, somebody said if you ask enough questions, it's only a matter of time before you discover their want, a need, or a hate.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden we can be a doctor of solutions. You know, we can truly come in and say, oh my gosh, I would love to help you with that. But again, as you're asking those questions and genuinely hearing their story, it just becomes very natural that you actually care. And it's not about the sale, it's about the person.
Yes, and the other thing is that it's not about you, it's about them. And that's a big thing that I think just in branding in general, with bloggers, with network marketers, with affiliate marketers, they make it about themselves. But it's like, I ain't selling to me. You know, this is not about me. This is about the service that I'm providing to this other person. So how can I come from that mindset of genuinely caring about them? That's another human being on the other end with their own challenges and struggles and family issues and joys and passions. And it's all relative because it doesn't matter if someone is looking for a product just because they want to, you know, be able to get out the door faster in the day, or if they're looking for a product for a loved one who is sick that they want to care for and bring more joy into that person's life. It's all relative to the person that you're talking to. So it's keeping that in mind and being a human being and caring.
And if you're working social media primarily, that's not going to slow you down. You're still on social media all day. It's just a little bit more thoughtfulness behind building that relationship. You can still mass communicate and you can still mass build your network. You just do it from a much more thoughtful way.
Yeah, and strategic way too. When you're talking to the right person, it's going to save you so much more time when you're talking to your ideal customer.
I love that because sometimes we talk about, I know a little bit later here, Alyssa's going to talk about our own brand, but I like it. We have a brand of customers through this avatar that we're trying to attract. I love that, and I've never really thought about that before.
And each and every one of you are your own micro brand under this macro brand. And so that's something that you also have to keep in mind, that you yourself have your own genius that you're bringing to the table. And really honoring that, embracing that would be huge.
Well, no one, you know, there's quite a few people that I've seen join this business, not because of me, but because somebody else joined, and it was them that became the brand that they wanted within the It Works brand. And so I think when we're truly honoring who we are, that's going to also give us just the right relationships, and the key people will then be able to see It Works for the value that it is.
And if you have a hard time figuring out what to say to people through Instagram DMs, the best thing to do is what I call data mining. So you can actually go to other women that are part of your network and interview them. Ask other women, ask the woman that brought you into the network and say, why did you get into this company? What was the first product that you tried? What did you think about it? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? What do you love most about this? What do you find most challenging about this? Because if you pay attention to the feedback that you get from your own community, you're going to start to hear what I call trigger words. There are these common words that are going to start coming out that people use to describe your company, your products, and all of the in-between of that. And then those are the words that you then can use to attract your ideal customer to then come and try the products as well.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so algorithms on social are always changing. I mean, they're absolutely evolving, and so I want to know what's working right now, like something we should do, something we should not do.
Yes, so I love that you're bringing this up. So I first want to talk about just the algorithm in general, because I feel like that the algorithm has just gotten this bad rap. It's like this big scary monster that's like outside our front door waiting to burn our house down. You know, they're like, oh my God, the algorithm, it's ruining my life. And it's like, the algorithm is just a robot. You know, it's not this person that's like behind the scenes, like hee 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 hee, I want to make sure that you don't succeed. And something else to remember.
It feels like that.
It does. It feels like that. But again, that is a limiting belief. That is what we have made up and told ourselves, so we're more comfortable with the fact that we aren't growing, right? So what you have to remember at the end of the day is that Facebook is a business. And it is a business that wants to be the absolute flippin' best at what they do. The only way that Facebook and Instagram, because Facebook owns Instagram, the only way that Facebook is successful is if each and every single person on their platform is successful, period, end of story. So any kind of lies that I say that you've heard that Instagram uses the algorithm to like shadow ban people and keep their accounts from growing, and that's all made up, make-believe stuff, gossip, rumor mill stuff that is not true, end of story. I've gone to Facebook, I've talked to those people, I'm telling you, it is not true. Shadow banning does not exist. It's literally, it was made up. The algorithm is not out to get you. It is literally a system and computer that only works off of what you give it, okay? So it's a two-way street. If you feel like the algorithm is keeping you from growing, it's because you are doing something or not doing something that is keeping you from growing. The only way that the algorithm works is that it knows through the systems of, we want to make sure that the people that actually want to see your content is seeing your content. So if not enough people are wanting to see your content, then the algorithm is not going to show them your profile. It's not shadow banning you. It's just not going to be the first one that comes up because it's not categorical anymore. So what that then tells you of what you can control, since we can't control the algorithm, what you can control is your content, what you can control is your consistency, what you can control is your education and your knowledge. You can watch YouTube videos, you can take programs, you can be in this room right now to learn new things. There are things that you can do, that you can embrace, that you can empower yourself to learn. So that is the first big key with the algorithm, is to know that it is not out to get you, that it is literally a computer system, and that if you want to grow, here are some ideas that I have. So one of the three big things that I know that for Facebook and Instagram, that the algorithm is starting to like more, or they're starting to kind of compute, depending on how many people are paying attention to it, is Instagram stories. So the more that you use Instagram stories, the more that your account is going to be seen by your followers. DM responses. The more that you respond to DMs in your inbox, the more that your account is going to be seen by your followers. I respond to every single person that comments to me. It may take me some time. I may have to block out 10, 20 minutes a day to do it, but it's important to be done. That also is where your relationship building is going to happen, behind the closed doors. That's where the intimacy can live. And then also IGTV. IGTV from Facebook or Facebook TV as well, from their perspective, is kind of their untapped market. They're trying to use it to compete against YouTube, so they're putting a lot of money behind making sure that that's a big thing. It's also part of the platform that has not been saturated yet. So if you want to be seen by new faces, I would highly advise you all to get on Instagram stories if you're not doing it. Get on Instagram or Facebook Lives if you're not doing it. Facebook stories as well. When I say Instagram, I mean both. Or IGTV or Facebook TV if you're not doing it yet, because those are the three most unsaturated parts of the platform.
I like that. I feel like I'm still in the field with you guys because I'm constantly trying to soak this in so much, obviously, to make sure that we all have this knowledge, but I'm just so intrigued by all this information, and I love, it's like this competition of how do I outwit the system and get more likes, and what am I doing to offer value so that I am creating that.
And I think that because consistency is kind of a big piece, so I want to be honest with you all. About a year ago, I decided to kind of do a little test, because I used to post like 3 times a day because someone told me that's what I had to do in order for the algorithm to like me. So I was like, well, you know what, I'm not going to post 3 times a day. I don't even know if I'm going to post every day, but what I am going to do is I'm going to be really consistent on Instagram stories, and I'm going to be really consistent with my DMs and making sure that I'm responding to people. I probably post on my actual feed, I don't know, maybe twice a month.
Wow.
I do Instagram stories every single day, and my engagement went from like 1.7% to 4%.
Wow.
So again, it just goes to show you that if you can find that one thing, and for some people, it may be the feed, and they're going to be consistent on that. But if you find that one thing that you know that, okay, I have the time and the bandwidth to wake up every day and be consistent at this, the algorithm will work in your favor. You don't have to do all the things.
Okay, so this is something we didn't plan. I'm gonna throw a little curveball at you. I know our time is coming to an end, but I feel just some resistance right now to people just like, I'm overwhelmed, I don't know where to get started, which I just want you to know, this guidebook, as you read through it, it is brilliant. And we do focus on Facebook and we focus on Instagram. We also have a chapter that tells you a few of the other platforms and what they're used for. But even the best influencers I know are doing 1 to 2 well, not trying to do all 7 or 8 of them.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest, like, somebody new just getting on, or somebody that's just gonna go, all right, you know what, I'm gonna embrace social. I understand that this isn't going away, it's just getting bigger. I wanna be relevant. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, I would definitely say, and then kind of this goes back to knowing who your ideal client is that why spend time on a platform if she's not there, or he's not there? Why waste all of your time trying to grow the Pinterest or the Twitter or the whatever, the new platform that's going to be coming up if that client is not there? So once you get really, really clear on where your customer is, and I think for a lot of people probably in this room, it's going to be Facebook and Instagram, then it's like, oh, wow, I can breathe. Okay, so that's it. That's all I have to focus on. That's great. I don't have to try to do all these other things. So kind of giving yourself the permission to say that that's okay is a huge thing. And then also I love that you brought up resistance because again, that goes back to that feeling of that we're powerless to something and giving our power away. Well, I can't grow no matter what I do, or I don't understand this, or I've tried all the things and nothing works for me. That's a resistance statement. So when you start to dive into that, you need to think to yourself, well, why is this getting uncomfortable? Because a lot of times we feel like uncomfortable means we're supposed to shy away from something. Oh, that's bad, we're not supposed to be doing it. When really that may be the one thing that you need to lean into a little bit more. So if you're getting resistant about something, then get honest with, why am I being resistant to this? Does this make me feel like I'm not enough? Does this make me feel like I don't have the confidence to do something? Is it my lack of understanding in something, so it makes me feel like I'm not worthy of being here? And then once you can know that, you can say, oh, okay, so that's where that's coming from. So now let me kind of just see how I can reframe this and learn some new things.
Oh, I love that. I love that because I am somebody that is like, work out of your strengths, and if it's not your strength, then don't go there. But I've also learned that if I really want to grow, after my confidence is growing out of working out of my strengths, I need to start embracing some of those learning opportunities that are out there for me to push myself. And we know that fear and faith cannot coexist. And so if fear is taking over, then chances are we're not going to step out and try something that we wouldn't normally try. And so that's where I just want to encourage you guys to step out in faith and trust the process. And growth is scary, but it's also one of the most exhilarating,
amazing, beautiful things. And so is the grief, because grief is holy just as joy is, right? You cannot have one without the other. So if there's times that you feel that grief and you're just like, oh, this is just so hard, this is so exhausting, just remember that that's part of the process. That's part of the brilliance in it. And that means that you're right on the cusp of something brilliant.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for all your knowledge.